Polytunnels are supplied with foundation tubes as standard. Choose a corner of your site for the first tube to be placed. On any sloping site, this should be the highest point of the ground. Place your foundation tube into the ground at this point, and then measuring the desired length of tunnel, place another foundation tube into the ground. Measure the desired width. Measure across the diagonals of the tunnels to check that the foundation tubes are square. If the measurements are not equal, simply adjust the foundation tubes until they are. Knock the foundation tubes down one side into the ground until just the swages remain above the ground. Place a string line across the foundation tubes across the width, and checking for level, drive the second foundation tube into the ground. Repeat this process at the other end of the tunnel. Place a string line down the length of the tunnel on one side and insert foundation tubes at the required spacings down the length. Please refer to the construction guide for all measurements. Drive the foundation tubes into the ground until all are level. Cover tension tubes are measured and laid out in the same way as standard foundation tubes. The only difference being that 8 inches should be left protruding from the ground. The hoops will then slot into or over these tubes and can be adjusted later. Cover tension tubes are an optional extra on any tunnels that are trenched. If anchor plates have been purchased, before driving in the foundation tubes fully, dig a hole at each point approximately 12 inches deep. Measure out the foundation tubes again and drive them into the hole, again so just the swage is protruding from the ground, or with cover tension tubes 8 inches. When driving in the foundation tubes, drive in so just the swage protrudes from the ground, or with cover tension tubes 8 inches. Again, check the foundation tubes are square and level. Use a string line and spirit level to get the foundation tubes level across the width. Refer to your construction guide for all measurements. With anchor plates, once all the holes have been dug and the foundations driven into the base of each hole, place an anchor plate clamp around the tube at the base of the hole. Tighten in place and place an anchor plate over the top of the clamp, the second clamp tightened in place on top of that to hold in place. If your tube is not in the centre of the hole, please do not worry. The hole in the anchor plate is offset for this purpose. Backfill all holes up until ground level. Anchor plates must be used when base rails have been purchased. Hoops should be slotted together on a flat base. The joints should be secured with a self-drill screw. If using cover tensioning tubes, place a tensioning clamp 8 inches from the bottom of the outer leg. Hoops slot into position on foundation tubes. The ridge runs down the centre of the tunnel and is suspended from the hoop using the double P-clip method. The first P-clip is placed around the hoop and the second around the ridge. The leg of the P-clip should be bolted together using a nut and bolt. P-clips can be adjusted along the ridge to get the desired hoop spacings. Once happy with the hoop spacings, tighten all nuts and bolts. Secure all joints and P-clips using self-drill screws, making sure that no screw protrudes past the hoop. Insert an end cap into each end of the ridge. Corner stabilisers are positioned from the second to end hoop and angle up to the end hoop. Corner stabilisers are black and white in correspondence to the left and right hand side of the polytunnel. Attach a corner stabiliser to a hoop using the single P-clip method, with the leg of the P-clip bolted to the flat end of the corner stabiliser. Using a spirit level, adjust the corner stabiliser up and down the end hoop until it runs vertical. Tighten and fix in place using a self-drill screw. Repeat this process on each corner of the polytunnel. Make sure the leg of the P-clip is to the inside of the hoop. No nuts, bolts or screws should protrude past the hoop. Repeat the process on each corner of the polytunnel. Tighten using a nut and bolt and fix with a self-drill screw, making sure that no nut, bolt or screw protrudes past the hoop. Once all column stabilisers have been positioned and secured in place, the polytunnel framework should be at the vertical. If using a storm strengthening kit, a P-clip is placed around the hoop where the outer leg meets the inner hoop. Tighten the P-clip up using a nut and bolt and secure with a self-drill screw. Make sure the leg of the P-clip, the nut, the bolt and the self-drill screw don't protrude past the hoop, so as not to come in contact with the cover. Crop bars are located on every intermediate hoop. A P-clip should be placed either side of the centre ridge, and the crop bar bolted up to these P-clips using the flat end. Using a spirit level, check the crop bar is level horizontally, tighten and secure in place with a self-drill screw. Crop bars are used to add stability across the width of the tunnel and can also be used to hang hanging baskets or tie canes up to. On larger tunnels, 1 or 2 support bars are supplied. These support bars angle from the crop bar up to the hoop or ridge. If using a triple ridge, this is assembled using the same method as for the centre ridge. The double P-clip method around the hoop. Triple ridges add stability down the length of the tunnel in high winds. They can also be used to hang hanging baskets from and tie canes up to. Triple ridges should be placed as close to where the outer leg meets the inner hoop as possible. Ridge bars are supplied in sections. A starter ridge and 1 or more ridge extensions. Adjust the P-clips along the ridge until at the desired hoop spacings. Tighten in all nuts and bolts as you go. Secure all joins and P-clips with a self-drill screw. Insert plastic end caps into each end of each ridge. Once assembled, the steel framework is now sturdy and stable in all weather conditions. When building a dummy door or end frame, position the two cross pieces between the two 8-foot legs. Measure 10.5 inch down each leg and align the cross piece accordingly. Drill through the legs and into the cross piece and insert a 6-inch nail. The top of the cross piece should be in line with the mark. Place a nail plate across the joint on the inside. Measure 35.5 inches down from the top of the first cross piece and make a second mark. Position the second cross piece so that the centre of the cross piece is in line with the mark. Drill through the 8-foot posts and into the cross piece. Inserting a 6-inch nail and nail plate across the inside. The nail plates will secure the join and add stability to the frame. Take the netting panel and place it between the two cross pieces. Staple the net panel to the bottom cross piece, pulling tight to the top cross piece. Tension the net out to each post and staple in place. Place the polythene panel below the second cross piece. Staple in place and pull tight down the length. Tension the polythene out to the 8-foot posts, getting as much tension as possible. Cut a length of batten the full width of the frame and nail in place across the top of the first cross piece. Cut a length of batten to fit across the middle of the second cross piece, ensuring it does not overlap onto the post and enough room is left either side for a cover batten. Trim off all excess netting and polythene, leaving just the base of the polythene to be buried into a trench. Measure the width of your end frame and dig a trench approximately 4 inches wider in the centre of the end hoop, making sure the trench is 12 inches deep. Position the end frame into the trench, check the end frame is centre
and level vertically, and mark the post underneath the hoop. Cut the posts on these marks and reposition back in the trench. Place a P-clip around the hoop so that the leg of the P runs down the outside face of the post. Drill the post through the hole in the P-clip and bolt in place using a cross-headed roofing bolt. Make sure to put a washer underneath the nut on the inside. Check the end frame is still centre and backfill the trench. Using a spirit level, check that the end frame is vertical and tighten the nut and bolt. Securely in place with a self-fill screw. Refer to the construction guide to see how to assemble your door. Position the 3 cross pieces between the 2 legs, one at each end and one in the middle. Where a cross piece meets a leg, screw a corner bracket in place. Take the net panel and position it across one half of the door. Tack the net to the middle cross piece and pull tight down to the end. Tension the net out to the legs and staple in place. Repeat this process with the polythene on the other half of the door. Tacking the polythene to the centre cross piece, pulling tight to the ends and tight out to the legs. Cut the length of batten the full width of the door and nail in place at each end, making sure to place a nail on either side of the joints. Nails should be positioned no more than 9 inches apart. Cut a length of batten the full length of the door and nail in place. Again, nails should not be spaced any more than 9 inches. A length of batten should be cut to fit between the 2 outer battens across the middle crosspiece. Trim off any excess netting or polythene around the outside of the door. On the opposite side to the batten, 2 hinges should be screwed to the door. Measure 9 inches in from the end of the door and screw in place. A string line can be placed around the outside of the end hoop. This will ensure when the door is built it is in line with the end hoop. Mark the hoop 16 inches either side of centre and dig a hole approximately 12 inches deep below these marks. Position one of the 8-foot doorposts into the hole with the inside edge level with the mark. Check for vertical and mark the post under the hoop. Cut the post on this mark and reposition back in the hole. A P-clip should be placed around the hoop so the leg of the P runs down the outside face of the doorpost. Fix in place using a crosshead roofing bolt and a washer under the nut on the inside. Checking that the post is still in line with the mark at the top. Secure in place using a self-drill screw. Using a spirit level, check the post is vertical and backfill the hole. Hang the door on this post using the hinges, making sure there is sufficient ground clearance for the door to open. Position the second 8-foot doorpost into the hole using 6-inch nails or a screwdriver shaft to get the spacings from the door. Mark the post under the hoop and cut on this mark. Place the post back in the hole. Place a P-clip around the hoop with the leg of the P down the outside face of the post. Drill and bolt in place using a crosshead roofing bolt and a washer under the nut on the inside. Again, using a 6-inch nail or a screwdriver shaft to keep the spacings from the door, tighten in place at the top, backfill the hole at the base, and secure it with a self-drill screw. Cut a lintel to fit between the two posts on top of the door. And again, using a 6-inch nail or screwdriver shaft to get the spacings. Drill through the posts and into the lintel. Fixing with a 6-inch nail. And nail plate across the inside. This nail plate will secure the joint and add stability to the frame. Anti-hotspot tape should be placed over the hoops from ground level on one side to ground level on the other. On the end hoops, the anti-hotspot tape should be placed at a 45-degree angle to protect the cover when it comes around the corner. Before applying anti-hotspot tape, make sure the hoops are dry and clear of any dirt. On every intermediate hoop, the anti-hotspot tape should run over the centre from ground to ground. On polytunnels 16 foot wide and above, 2 strips of anti-hotspot tape should be placed over the end hoops, one running over the centre and one running over the outside face. Anti-hotspot tape should be applied prior to fitting the cover. To form a rebate for your door frame, cut a length of batten the full width of the frame. This batten should be nailed across the top edge of the lintel, with a nail placed either side of the joint. Nail 2 full lengths of batten down each doorpost, in line with the outside edge. Nails should be spaced no more than 9 inches apart.
Dig a trench around the polytunnel framework from doorpost to doorpost. The trench should be kept no less than 4 inches away from each hoop to stop the hoops from splaying into the trench. The trench should be dug 12 to 14 inches deep and a spade's width.
Covering should only be attempted on a calm day with as little wind as possible. After digging the trench around the outside of the framework from doorpost to doorpost, roll the cover out down one side of the tunnel, making sure to clear the ground of any sharp objects. Pull the cover over the framework, ensuring that the logo with the word inside is to the inside of the tunnel. Centralise the sheet along the width and length of the tunnel. The cover will not reach the ground on the ends of the tunnel, but this is correct. Cut a length of batten to fit across the lintel at each side of the tunnel. Nail this batten to the lintel, approximately 6 inches either side of centre. Cut a length of batten to fit across the lintel at the opposite end of the tunnel. And pull the cover tight along the length. Don't be afraid to pull the cover as tight as possible, as this part will be cut off at a later time. Nail the batten to the lintel, 6 inch either side of centre. The rest of the lintel will be covered at a later time. Starting at the centre on one side of the tunnel, pull the cover down into the trench and creating a smooth panel from the ridge down to the trench, backfill the hole. Work your way out to the ends of the tunnel, pulling the cover down and along the length, backfilling the trench as you go. Repeat this process on the opposite side of the tunnel, get as much tension down into the trench as possible. At the corners, cut the cover below ground level, in line with and out from the end hoop. Pull the cover around the door frame and twisting the wrist, create pleats. Nail in place as you go, out from the centre of the lintel to the doorpost. Repeat this process down each doorpost, grabbing the cover, twisting the wrist and creating pleats. Pull the cover as tight as possible to smooth out the sides. The pleats should run out by the time you've reached the straight side, from which point the polythene should be smooth down into the trench. Repeat the process down the second doorpost, again getting as much tension into the cover as possible. Position the pattern as tight up to the rebate as possible, as this will cause the cover to go around a corner and be fixed in place. Tension the cover down into the trench and backfill the hole. Repeat this process at the other end of the tunnel, again pulling the cover as tight as possible and battening in place. Taking extra care, trim off any excess polythene around the door frames at each end of the tunnel. Once the cover has been completed, loosen off any cover tension clamps on any intermediate hoops on the inside of the tunnel. Lift the hoop into the cover, reposition the clamp and tighten. This will ensure the cover has a drum-tight finish. Fit the catch from the door to the door frame on the outside of the tunnel to finish off. A standard irrigation kit includes the following items. Cut a length of irrigation pipe the full length of the tunnel, and using hot water, heat one end, insert a plug, do the same at the other end but insert an elbow. Using the cable ties, tie the irrigation pipe up to the centre ridge. Cut another length of pipe to go from the ridge to the doorpost. Again, heat the ends, insert an elbow into one end, and attach to the previous elbow. Cut a length of pipe to fit down the doorpost to your desired height. Heat one end and insert the barbed female connector. Heat the other end and attach to the previous elbow. Using the C-clips provided, attach the irrigation pipe to the doorpost. Screw the male click fitting into the female thread. Using the 3-inch nail, carefully make a hole in the irrigation pipe at every intermediate hoop. Push the droppers into these holes. If you have purchased a Premier irrigation kit, use the hole punch to make the holes instead of the 3-inch nail. Attach your hose pipe to the male click fitting and to your tap. Turn on the tap and you will find that the droppers create a fine mist to cover your polytunnel. If you have ordered a Premier irrigation kit, you will receive a hole punch, pressure regulator and tap timer.
Ground cover should be rolled out on the inside of the tunnel down the length. On larger tunnels, 2 sheets of ground cover may be required. Centralise the sheet inside of the tunnel and making sure it reaches all edges. Peg down at each hoop and each doorpost with the ground pegs provided.
Premier Polytunnels supply a detailed construction guide with every polytunnel. We also provide a construction advice helpline 7 days a week, along with a comprehensive collection of online construction videos. If you have any queries or questions, give the team a call or visit our website for more details.